Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Loudguns, and today we're going to be taking a quick look back at the Xenothreat event. I know I'm a little bit late to the party on this one, but I've just been moving house, but we're all settled in now and finally got the internet resolved after some trials and tribulations with a certain internet service provider. But for the last few days, we've been running this as a community and organization, and it's been an awful lot of fun to do with a decent group of people. So if you haven't tried this already, I strongly advise you go and get involved. Don't hang around and think that it will be around for a long time. It will probably be closing at some point next week, I'd imagine. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it continues into this weekend. And I strongly recommend, if you haven't tried it, go and do so. And also, just a quick one, it's really best to experience with other players. So if you are struggling for people to play with, just see down in the video description down below for a link to our Discord. Come and say hi, and there's usually groups of people running it, so come along and have some fun. There are also some rewards for participating in this event, so it's all tied to the reputation you have with the civilian defense force who give you the mission, and you can unlock 3 pieces of armor for your torso, arms, and helmet. Now, this is a bit of a bone of contention in the community, with a lot of people feel a bit let down by the quality of this. They were expecting something which was a bit more custom than just a skinning of an existing piece. But personally, just for my 2 cents, I don't think we should be too harsh on CIG for this. If nothing else, to my mind, it fits with the law. You know, you're effectively getting called up into a civilian militia, and a civilian militia wouldn't have a uniform that was custom designed. You know, they'd be buying something off the shelf and slapping a couple of badges on it. Secondly, you know, if you think about it from the perspective of a player who has maybe a starter package and nothing else unlocked, you're going to start with like 5,000 UEC when it comes time to go into the verse for real, and your Aurora or your Mustang. So actually, having 3 pieces of armor already unlocked opens up more opportunities for you. And if we get other events, so let's just say, you know, another event gives you an assault rifle, another event gives you a couple of leg pieces, actually that opens up the possibilities of what you can go and do on day one. Now, I know, you know, a lot of players out there have put a lot more money into the game, and sort of, if you're anything like me, a bit of a sucker for the subscriber store, you've probably got a bunch of armors ready to go on day one. But you know, this isn't actually an insignificant reward, particularly considering that these pieces are tied to your account. So they'll be in your hangar and they'll always be in your inventory when you start the game. Finally, not to take a dig at anyone, but I do get the feeling that, you know, CIG are in that position where you can't keep all the people happy all the time. You know, and I'm sure that if they had spent a load of time and resources creating custom armors just for this event, there would be a whole litany of people basically saying, why are you wasting the time? Why are you wasting the dev resources? This doesn't matter. Make us a game. So they're always going to fall foul of somebody. So just before we get into saving Stanton, if you are watching this to just see if Star Citizen's for you, please consider using my referral code, but just make sure that you use somebody's, because you'll get yourself an extra bit of starting cash, and during 3.14, I think you get a dragonfly each for you and for the person who refers you. So just make sure you get yourself that little bonus to start. So I've always loved video games, but as a kid it was all about the Nintendo 64 with like GoldenEye and Zelda. That accounted for my childhood vitamin D deficiency. But it was university around 2007 and 2008 that I truly joined the PC crowd. And it was with sort of almost daily LAN parties, so I reckon I could have got a first, but I don't regret a thing. So one of the games I played obscene amounts of was this, Sins of a Solar Empire. It was this grand strategy where you expand out across a star system. And keeping in mind that was more than a decade ago, it was pretty insane that you could zoom all the way into these massive space battles with capital ships, right down to the size of this fighter. And we always wondered what it would be like if you had a game where you could be piloting that fighter actually in a space battle. And Xenothreat is the first glimpses for me of Star Citizen delivering just that, and that's why it really has got me. It got me really excited the first time, and seeing the remastered version has really set that all off again. So I know with all the bugs and stuff that SC can be pretty frustrating at times, but it's things like this that remind me that they're trying to build on something pretty huge. So you'll notice before a Xenothreat event starts off, if you're in one of the major landing zones, the monitors will get taken over by Xenothreat with their little announcements. And then shortly after, you get the mission itself pop up. And if you go to your contract manager, you'll see a new category priority. And there's the Xenothreat ambush support needed. So you just accept that offer. And that's going to signpost you towards Jericho. Stop off first at Mikkel 1 near Microtech. So a good place to meet up with your friends, but also just get your spawn point set. So the basic premise of the mission is that this UE Navy Javelin has been off fighting Xenothreat, a terrorist group from Pyro, and it needs to resupply at the Jericho Navy base. But while it's been sort of sent some starfarers to bring it its supplies, they've got ambushed, and the civilian defense force has been raised to help fend off Xenothreat while the Javelin's resupplied and help bringing it the supplies that it needs from the starfarer wrecks. So there are two sort of roles that you can fulfill within this. You can either run security in a combat ship and hold off Xenothreat, or you can fulfill the sort of salvage role and go and get onto these wrecks and get the supplies that they need to get this Javelin up and running. So in terms of the combat side of things, sort of any ship with some guns on it will do. You can go and get involved from any level. There's no level caps or anything in Star Citizen, so just make your way over there with whatever you've got. Or indeed, sort of with the changes in 3.14, keep in mind that multi-crew is a lot more viable. And even just put a shout out in general chat that you're happy to go and turret gun for somebody. The first stage will be just making the jump to INS Jericho, which will appear on your map after you've accepted the mission. And once you're there, that triggers that you've reported for duty. And that will give you the quantum beacon for the wreck site where the starfarers are. So the first job of the security is to just go and make sure that anybody fishing the stuff out of the wrecks is kept safe from waves of Xenothreat fighters who are going to turn up. It's worth just bearing in mind that you'll want to take the call to arms mission as well from the mercenary tab. You're going to periodically get a payment as part of this mission, but the call to arms can just make sure that you pick up a bit of extra cash for any kills that you make. And bear in mind that sort of also shares across any party that you're in. So this can just sort of top up the money that you're receiving from the mission itself. And that's just worth covering right at the start as well. So the mission payout will say 25,000 credits, which, while this sort of thing is fun, you might want to go and do something else if you think it's just 25k. But actually, what you'll see is there's the payment indicator running along the top, which is sort of group based. It's sort of how much we're all making together, and so you'll see periodic payments of sort of 2,000 credits, 4,000 credits come up. So in an average Xenothreat, sort of if you play it all the way through, which can take a couple of hours, you'll make into the hundreds of thousands. So it's a lot better payout than the contract itself indicates. And one of the best things as well about this is that it's multifaceted. So if you don't fancy being one of the flyboys whizzing around having dogfights with the fighters coming in from Xenothreat, you can also do the cargo. So I really like the Drake Cutlass Red for this because you've got the med bays in the back and it's got a really convenient ramp. You just want to make sure you pull up towards where the Starfarer's sort of main hangar is. And it can, again, really help if you've got a bit of a group of you doing this together. So yeah, sort of in the cutlass, just make sure you set your preferred ICU so that if you do happen to have a mishap when you board the ship, you'll spawn back here rather than back at Vic L1. So first you're going to need to find sort of the way into the ship. It can change, it's like a little bit of a puzzle. So you want to look for the various entrance doorways, and one of them will have open doors after it. So sort of ignore any of the ones which are sort of a way into the ship, but then a closed door, and look for the one which is which shows you the way in, but there's an open door to enter the ship through. And sometimes it's like a little bit of a maze. I mean, I get the feeling that Starfarers were almost made as an FPS level, as opposed to being made as a well thought out ship. And you might need to crawl through air vents and stuff. And just make sure you got your guns equipped and your heavy armor on, because there's some bad guys hiding out on the wrecks. So before you start worrying about any of the cargo, you better go through and just clear those out. Check your corners. With this in mind, just make sure that you've got your magazines actually like equipped to your character in your inventory. So sort of Star Citizen doesn't just check what magazines you have in your inventory, your overall global bag of holding. Those actually need to be in the spare magazine slots. And also just make sure that you've got some med pens purchased and again equipped to your character within the consumables section of your inventory, because sometimes these Xenothreat guys, sort of depending on how good the server you're on is, sometimes they're just standing around waiting to be shot in the head. Sometimes it seems like they're members of the SAS. So you're looking to make your way to the main cargo, which is sort of down towards the bottom of the ship. You find yourself on a gantry, sort of walkway overlooking it. And these are the cargo boxes that we're after, but don't go after them too soon. Just make sure that you clear this fully of hostiles. You can scan the ship before you get on it, so you know how many bad guys you're after. So in this case, I knew that there were 5 before I came on. And there's the last 2. Hiding behind, and I can just spray and pray no scope. They were feeling a bit tired today, I think. Once you're here, if you just look over to the right hand side of the door, there's this little box, and if you interact with that green button, not entirely clear that you can interact with it, but that opens up the hangar door. So where we parked our ship is perfect. So there are 3 types of box. So the blue ones, this is acryloplex. We need 50 of these total from the wrecks. These are explosive, so if they get shot, they go kaboom, as I found out to my unfortunate demise in one run through of this. Just place these gently onto your ship, and make sure that you don't get shot after you take them. Then we've got diluthamex, which we need 80 of. These are yellow. So these are quantum sensitive. If you try and QT with those in your hold, you go kaboom. And then finally, we've got zeta prolinide, the green ones, and these are time sensitive. So if you have about 25 minutes to get them back to Jericho. So this is where it's really useful to have, firstly, a tractor beam tool. So make sure you've got your multi-tool and you've bought a tractor beam. Conveniently, Mikel1's at refineries, so it sells it. So make sure you've got that. And also it helps to have friends. So here I'm just like chucking the boxes over to Ryan, who's then carefully putting them into the back of the Cutlass. And we've got another guy in the Cutlass who is sorting these as they come in. We found that what you can do is if you clear the blues and the yellows first before you even open the boxes on the greens, you actually have enough time on the greens if you load them last to do the drive back to Jericho without quantuming, so you won't blow up the yellow ones. You've still got sort of plenty of time to get back, and you can take home basically every type of box that you find on the wrecks. And that means so you can just be really efficient. So we had 3 teams in 3 cargo ships, and we sort of each cleared out one of the wreck sites, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, and then we drove straight back to Jericho individually, and that way we managed to get the all of the right amounts actually very quickly. Once you get back to Jericho, you just look for these landing pads next to where the javelin's docked. If you don't see them, then chances are, you're just looking at Jericho the wrong way up. So flip round and see if they appear on the other side. That's caught me out a couple of times, I have to be honest. And then you just sort of head out of your ship. And effectively, they're sort of down towards the ends of these landing struts. If we head into that building there are some trade terminals where you can turn in these boxes. You get a bit of cash, it's not very much, so it's definitely not worth fighting over, who hands in the boxes. While all of this is going on, you'll periodically get a more concerted Xenothreat assault as they sort of send in their Idrises to try and take out the Javelin while it's defenseless and docked. So particularly at those points, it helps to have a couple of bombers. But if you've completed part 1 of the mission, then soon after you'll get CDF Alert 2. And this is basically, the main Xenothreat assault of 3 Idrises and a host of support craft, including hammerheads and light fighters, vanguards, sort of bit of everything really is going to come at you, and you're going to get yourselves involved into a proper battle. So the main idea here is that if you successfully resupplied the Javelin, then it will come out and assist you in this battle, in this fight against the 3 Idris, which is going to make things a lot easier. But if you fail to resupply the Javelin, then you're on your own, and you as a group of people on the server have to try and take on the Idris yourself. So thankfully we got the Javelin backing us up this time. So not only will it be an easier fight, it'll also be a lot prettier. And this is just a really great opportunity to just jump in any combat ship you can and give it a whirl. I've had a great time over the last few days just getting all of these pointless combat ships that I bought with my mining profits, getting them out and taking them through their paces. And I know there's an awful lot already about sort of what is and what isn't meta in 3.14, but I have to say, just fly what feels fun for you. I know that it's not the strongest fighter out there, but I just love my saber. It just feels great to fly and shoot. So maybe it's because I'm not such a great combat pilot. I prefer the sort of more stable platform. But because there's a balance in the Xenothreat fleet, it helps to have a balance yourself. So, have some fighters to deal with their fighter cover, but also have some bombers. So we've got things like retaliators and eclipses to deal with the enemy capital ships. So particularly if you can coordinate with other people, sort of like send in some missile spam to make the Idris drop its countermeasures before then you smash it with a size 9. And you get one of the most satisfying explosions in the game. And to be honest, one of the best things about this remastering of Xenothreat for me is the continuation. Going straight from the cargo phase straight into the battle it really helps with the immersion in it. Now, admittedly, there are still some kinks and some bugs to work out in Xenothreat, and sometimes you do get random crime stats. That does happen. Admittedly, this time I think what happened is somebody else wandered in front of one of my size 9 torpedoes, which was making its way towards one of the enemy Idris. So one thing I would just close out with is just I haven't actually experienced anybody actively griefing during these events, but I have seen plenty of players get crime stats. So just unless you're absolutely certain that they're griefing, that they're trying to spoil the event for other people, just consider giving them the benefit of the doubt if you can find it in your heart. we're all just trying to enjoy this event, so nobody wants to spend however many hours in Klesher, and then have to go to Everest Harbour and then have to jump in a ship and get themselves all the way back across to Microtech. So yeah, just if you can, unless you're sure that they had bad intentions, then maybe let it slide, maybe press that right bracket and decline to press charges. So with all that said, if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, then hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out growing the channel. I'm still amazed at how quickly it's grown and the sort of level it's up to. So thank you to everybody who's watched, liked, subscribed. It's really amazing. And thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. I better get myself hand mining some gems to reduce this sentence down. And I'll see you in the next one.